I might add, by the way, I think what happened in Portland, where one of the Trump guys riding along in vans inciting response is shooting rubber bullets, I guess, or paintballs. Apparently there was someone shot by someone in the crowd with a bullet, killed. I think that person should meet the legal requirements, that whatever that calls for.
Well, as you can see and hear, Beijing Biden is out of the basement, actually taking some softball questions from the press. He's set to visit Kenosha, Wisconsin tomorrow, 2 days after President Trump went there and after he told President Trump that Mr. Trump shouldn't go there. Joining me now, Donald Trump Jr. His latest book is titled Liberal Privilege, Joe Biden and the Democrats' Defense of the Indefensible. Sir, welcome back to the Chris Salcedo Show.
Good to be with you, Chris. How's everything?
Doing great, sir. Thanks for being here. And, you know, this book is right in keeping with what we've been talking about here lately. Beijing Biden, ignorant of the facts of the case, saying that the police officer in Kenosha should be charged. Then he turns around and says peaceful protesters gunned down in Portland by a Biden supporter was just asking for it, saying he was, quote, inciting responses. This is right into the wheelhouse of your book, double standard.
100%. I mean, it's liberal privilege. You know, Joe Biden, who's been hiding in his basement for 3 months, hasn't condemned the violence, hasn't said anything about it. Frankly, it seems like the Democrats are almost tacitly accepting of it at this point. Not one person in that week-long I Hate America Zoom call that was the DNC, not even one person mentioned it. Remember, Chris, if you go to work, church, or school, you'll get in trouble, you'll get fined, you can't do that. But if you loot, burn, and riot, that's 100% acceptable. I mean, that's the Democrat platform today. That's how insane it is. You know, you are more likely to get in trouble for opening your business to be able to put food on your family's table than you are for looting someone else's business. That's not the America I know. That's not the America most Americans know. That is apparently the Democrat Party platform, though, these days. That's what they're doing. And they live by rules of double standards, of hypocrisy, none better, you know, perhaps exemplified than what Nancy Pelosi did just yesterday, where she forces a store owner to open up to give her a blowout, her, you know, hair drying appointment, when that business owner been told they had to be shut down. I mean, between that, the $25,000 refrigerator, the gourmet custom ice cream that she has, Nancy Pelosi is so out of touch. She's like the Marie Antoinette of the 21st century, yet she's supposed to be representing the people. She has no idea about the people. It's crazy.
Yeah, I want to circle back around to Pelosi and a couple of others here in a second. Again, right into your book. But now all of a sudden you're seeing the Democrat socialists out there saying, hey, we support the police. Of course, they're watching their poll numbers sink like a rock because they've been anti-police. They've been a jihad against our police. Are you buying this turnaround from Mr. Biden saying, oh, now I support the police and I always have?
Of course not. As I said, they had 1 week to discuss it. Hundreds of speakers at the DNC. Not one person addressed it. It's not like this stuff hasn't been going on for 4 months. Then miraculously, about 2 hours after, Chris Cuomo and Don Lemon are talking about it on CNN, affecting the poll numbers. Oh, now Joe Biden wants to act. It's like the rest of his policies. It's like the rest of the platform. Now he's going to act. Well, guess what, Joe? You've been in D.C. as a politician, a career elected politician for 50 years. A half a century. Now you're going to fix things? Why didn't you do it then? Joe Biden's going to fix racial strife in America? I don't know. He was the vice president for 8 years under the first African-American president. Why didn't they address prison reform, opportunity zones? Why didn't they push or create the First Step Act? Because the Democrats have no interest in solving actual problems. They have interest on campaigning on problems. They need to tell you that you're a victim. They drive it into the narrative forever. They pretend they're going to fix something. Then they do nothing for 5 decades. I mean, a half a century is a long time. You'd think you'd have a record of accomplishment. But no. Why would I solve anything? I'm just going to complain again in 4 more years and expect you to vote for me. That's what he's done. No reasonable person would ever give Joe Biden a chance to run this country when he's had half a century to do something, and you can't name a single one of his accomplishments.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Let me add to your list of liberal privilege. You mentioned Pelosi. Of course, the salons are all shut down in California because they're going to spread the China virus that way by getting her hair dried. So she goes there. She's not wearing a mask, and she's going into a closed salon the rest of the people can't go into. Then you got Governor Cuomo walking his dog out there, Mr. Mask Man. He has no mask on, and he's captured on a picture here. I guess it was on Twitter. These folks are all showing America what they're about. It's all about liberal privilege, right?
100%. Honestly, it's why I wrote the book. The media has totally abdicated their responsibility. I had no intention of actually writing a book, but since I was locked out of my work, I couldn't go into anywhere. I was locked at home for 4 months. I actually started researching our opponent, as well as some of the other Democrats and the other leaders of the Democrat Party. And I was like, oh, my God. You know, if we had an honest media, if we had a media that was interested in telling the truth instead of just shilling for the Democrats, these would be major stories. Again, Joe Biden's record destroying jobs in America, pushing for NAFTA, TPP, permanent trade status for China, things that literally decimated the American middle class and the American manufacturing sector. Now he's going to run on that. Joe Biden's multiple brain aneurysms that required brain surgery. Obviously, there's no cause and effect. It has nothing to do with why he can't remember where he is 50% of the time, why he can't get through a softball interview, answering some basic questions. You see him panicking, looking in there, trying to look at the talking points because he can't remember them. He's even reading the bylines because he doesn't know the difference. Yeah. But the media feels like it's their job to hoodwink the American people that this is somehow normal. What about the family graft, whether it's Hunter Biden and $1.5 billion, $1.5 billion from the Chinese government? That's $30 million a year in fees, a year, annual. That's a pretty good salary. You think Joe Biden is going to be tough on China? If I took $1.5 from Chinese, Chris, I'd be in jail. But Hunter Biden, no problem. Joe's really fit to lead.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. One thing I want you to just keep an eye out for. Every single time Biden gets upset or he gets lost, he'll always say, the fact of the matter is, because he's trying to figure out what he's going to say next. Oh, the fact of the matter is, and he says, oh, the big question is, and then he goes on and makes a statement, doesn't even ask a question. It's a crutch, and you can just watch that every day as he speaks before the cameras, whenever he does decide to do that. Last thing, I just want you to get your reaction to social media and how unfair it is. Twitter and Facebook, they're censoring your dad, of course, but the Iranian leaders can get on there and spew anti-Semitism all day long. They don't get censored. We want to give our condolences to you and your family, by the way, for your Uncle Robert. But the vile trash that was going on about his passing, #wrong Trump, none of that got censored by these social media giants. If I can get your comment on them.
100%. Well, they're disgusting, and that's what it is. I mean, you've seen conservatives be censored, deplatformed, and I don't mean like fringe elements. I mean mainstream conservatives. It's happened to me. It happens to the president of the United States. It happens to so many of us. Yet you've never seen the most vile, the most ridiculous, radical leftists. You don't see the Ayatollah saying anti-Semitic things. How about this? Twitter said it was not against their policy when there are Chinese government officials literally spreading disinformation about the coronavirus. They know it's disinformation. They don't. But if I put up a tweet about a couple of doctors talking about treating patients with hydroxychloroquine in the field and saying, listen, we've seen positive results. There's a Yale study that backs them up. There's a Henry Ford Clinic study that backs them up. I got thrown off the platform. But literal Chinese government officials, Twitter has no problem with them knowingly spreading disinformation. I've been talking about the social media masters and their censorship of conservatives and, frankly, anything that they don't like. We get it. We got to get more Republicans to understand what's going on with that. So many Republicans don't fully understand the issue, and they don't understand how important an issue it is to their actual base. So we have to wake up because the media masters are putting a lot of weight on the scale of this election, trying to shift it over. And again, it's not just social media. Look at Google, whether it's search engines, search engine optimization, and where things get prioritized, what articles show up. Inboxing, where certain emails. If you sign up for 5 Democratic congressmen email and 5 Republican congressmen's emails, look at your inbox and look at your junk mail. Which one's going where? It's amazing what's going on. The guys in Silicon Valley, which is the most homogenous group of individuals anywhere in the world, are literally deciding what you should and shouldn't be seeing. And we have to make that stop.
Name of the book is Liberal Privilege. Don Jr., it's always a pleasure to talk to you, man. Come back soon.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.